people are asking me for advice, whereas I went there for advice. And so it doesn't matter what level you are, you're always going to be a little bit ahead of someone else whose feedback will be useful. And that was kind of like my main key takeaway. Hello, welcome back to the Evolve podcast. You're with me, Lewis, and the birthday boy, Samuel. Well, it was your birthday last week, so yeah, you're old as shit. No, you're not. You're 29. Oh my God, I almost called you 30.
Oh my God.
You're 29. 29?
When do you start saying nice things to me? At what point do you say nice things?
I almost thought you were 30 next year. You're 29.
You called me old.
Yeah.
You just hurting me.
I'm sorry.
Like, I want... Click this.
Happy birthday.
Click this. I'm being abused.
Happy birthday.
Anyway, thank you.
How was your birthday, bro? You got your last year of 20s left.
It was good. It was good.
What did you get up to? Apologies.
We're just going to dive into this.
Apologies, I couldn't make it.
You know what?
Sorry.
People have now been fitted into one of three category groups. Category groups? 3 categories. And Lewis, you've barely made it as my friend still for this behavior. I'm going to say it with my chest. And I know the rest of the man that have not made it as my friends. I know you're listening to this episode. Get out of my DMs. Don't message me again. Happy birthday. Who's Sam? That's what I want you to be saying from now on. You're all dead to me. You know what? It was a sensitive day of celebrations.
Okay. I send gifts as an apology.
You know what? Yeah, you did great, right? You did great. And I really appreciate people that let me know they couldn't come to the festivities. Now I'm going to get vulnerable right now.
I told you from the get-go.
You were honest with me from the get-go. Certain people waited till like the day or two before to tell me. Either way, they let me know. I'm not bothered about people not coming to my birthday thing because honestly, I'll say it this way. I love being an extrovert person. I actually don't love being center of attention as much as my character leads me to seem like I do, right? I like to be like in and out of the spotlight. Jump in, kiki, jump out. That's me. I jump in, hi, everyone loves the Sam, cool, jumps back out. What I don't like is a whole event where consistently everyone's just looking at me, asking me questions. I have a very limited social battery. I'm in and out for a reason. So I'm not a big fan of... Nah, fuck it. It is what it is. Say it with chest. So I don't really like big parties where I am that center of attention unless it's like a presentation or something. And even then, once it's over, I'm gone. No one has to talk to me, right? And it's my choice. So I've not really ever been a big fan of birthday parties. And I always wondered why. So interestingly enough, whilst I was planning this one, or whilst planning what we were going to do for the birthday, I was talking to Sarah about this because we were like trying to find pictures of me and like some old friends I have. And anyway, some old pictures of me and my friends. And I found one of me, Luke, and a few of our mates when we were in primary school. And we all had party hats on. I was like, what the fuck's that? And it turned out to be like the first birthday that I celebrated with my school friends in this country.
Oh.
And I remember that, I'm not going to lie, it's a bit contentious because I was the only black kid in my primary school. So like, there was a camp of like parents who were like, oh, let my kids be friends with him. And parents who were like, what the fuck's this school doing? Let him in. You know what I mean? But I'm oblivious to that because I'm just Sam. I just enjoy life. So on my birthday, I remember that there were very few people out of the people that I invited actually turned up. And there were the kids of the parents that were very much like, yeah, he spent time with Sam. And I really, like, those people became my friends for a long time. Luke was obviously one of those kids. That's why he's still my best mate. And I didn't really, like, fixate on that being an issue, but I think it bothered me more than I realized because I've always hated planning birthday parties. And every time up until recently, I've only ever planned parties as, like, part of an event that was already existing. So if you remember Oceans, like, I always had my birthday around Oceans because we're all going out anyway. So in my head, like, it's my birthday Ocean, but it's also that people will be out either way. So if no one came, it's not necessarily about me. It's Ocean. Yeah?
I hear you. I actually, I
see what I mean?
Relate to that, honestly.
Exactly.
Really
so, like, when it came to, like, planning this, I hated it because I was just like, because people would only be coming because it's my birthday. So if they don't come, then it's fully, like, it's happening again.
Can I?
And, like,
yeah.
Go on.
Can I just interject and be like, because I feel like I know exactly how you feel. It's because like you don't want to go around and ask everybody like, oh, you free, and make it all about you. And if they don't, then you're like, oh, now I feel like a dick and be rejected. And then it's like, oh, everyone's making a fuss, but also you want them there, but you only want them there because they want to be there, not because you want them to be there.
And you know what the worst thing is, like,
oh, bro, I feel you.
Like, I'm inviting people where I'm like, there are some people that I know won't come, and I'm not as bothered because they didn't come. It's just more of a courtesy of like, I know you couldn't make it, but I'm going to invite you, assuming you say you couldn't make it. And some of them didn't even bother. Fuck you. Anyway, so the event comes around, and people told me they couldn't come. I was like, appreciate it. Yeah, cool. Thanks for letting me know. Some of them were like disappointed. It's like, at least you let me know. On the day I was expecting probably like, not many, like 12 people or so to come. And I planned it all. I did like, it was a pub golf. So we picked 9 bars in Nottingham. I planned it so like there was water hazards so people can pee in certain areas. But I know some of the girls and some of the boys can't hold their bladders for crap. So I knew that I had to like position the water hazards in a way where it was a challenge, but no one's getting UTIs once the party's over. You know what I mean? I even picked like certain drinks challenges knowing that some people would hate the drinks, so they would lose points or they would gain points. And some people would be able to make it up on some like the bar, so you had cocktails instead. So I was really excited. I even made like a Google Maps of all the holes. I did the AI thing and all. I did like an AI introduction.
I really wanted to just quickly shout out Sarah because I was in the group chat for this birthday.
Yeah.
And Sarah.
No, we're not shouting out Sarah.
No, I'm shouting out Sarah.
No, I'm not. I'll do that. She pissed me off.
Sarah.
No, we're not shouting her out.
Because Sam, basically, right, dear listeners, Sam posted this long ass text about where we're going, what bar, and everything like that. And Sarah just put, used AI to like create the map, like bar crawl or some shit, and like everyone died.
Do you know what upset me? No, this is now gonna get peaked because you're gonna look like a dick. That upset me, and I hope Sarah don't get upset about me airing this out because we're cool now. Me and her, obviously, we're in love still. We're going to get married. But it upset me because she knew my fears around planning the party, right? And then I was very worried that people aren't replying to me and all that. She knew that. So then I was working really hard considering all she did was that one input into the group chat. And bare people put laughing emojis in that. But some of those people didn't even reply to me to say they weren't coming. Which goes to show, like, you're clearly reading the group chat and you were more entertained by her taking the piss out of me. Basically, what happened was the only bit I used AI for was that introduction because I was like, oh, it doesn't sound like funny enough. It doesn't sound entertaining. I want it to be like more like a golf announcer saying it. So I used AI to write it all out. And then her follow-up was, is AI going to tell us the rest of the party? And what pissed me off is, one, bitch didn't even help me plan it. All you did was bring in keys. And then my enemies, certain people, and I know this guy knows who he is. I helped him through mad stuff. Didn't even bother like messaging me. Didn't even tell me he couldn't make it. First thing he did, laughing emojis in that. And then nothing else was said after that. When I even put the message like, oh, I see my enemies in the chat, nothing. Dead silence. So now in my head, that guy, fuck you. Like, honestly, like, he knows who he is. Fuck you. Because I was there for the Donny. And I was like, come, he went to like some other girl's party. Some other girl who he hooked up with. He went to her party.
Exactly. Okay, that's the
and then he had like the audacity to send me like he sent like one message like an hour into everyone meeting up to be like, oh, are you guys still at this bar? But that was it. He sent like one message and then a follow-up after that to be like, no, he sent one message to be like, are you in that bar? A follow-up to be like, are you still there? But like they were so close to each other, and then that was it. He's got Sarah on WhatsApp. He's got bare people on WhatsApp. If you wanted to meet up, you could have called. You could have like didn't do none of that. Honestly, did. And then afterwards was just like, oh, how was it? I was just there like, fuck. Like what the fuck do you want me to say to you? You prick? But yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It was good though in terms of I really did enjoy myself.
Good
in the event. It was really good fun. It wasn't on my birthday itself. My birthday was, Jesus Christ, my brain. The Thursday after that.
It's the Thursday after.
Yeah. So it was chilled. It was sad that I was working on my birthday though. But I enjoyed it because I guess it was like I was busy.
You had the evening off. You know, we didn't do the pod last week.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, Lewis. We didn't do the pod last week because you were fucking at a network event, not because it's my birthday.
It was
fun. No, I was happy to record the pod. You know what? I hope the listeners realize how horrible you are to me. Okay, but yeah, it was chilled. Downside was most of my team were either on holiday or, unfortunately, my manager was feeling a bit poorly. So it meant that it was just me. But I also had a cold that carried through for my birthday. So I couldn't be like, oh, where is me? Because it was self-inflicted. I was ill. And I've only now started getting better from it. But at the same time, I was like, it's my birthday. I'm the only one here. And I'm suffering. And I'm just like dealing with email after meetings after meetings. And like, no one on my team remembered it was my birthday. So no one actually said happy birthday from my team.
Oh, that's...
Like, everyone came back like nothing had happened. And they were just like, yeah, Sam. So I was like, all right, okay, cool. You really didn't even remember. So this has been a very awkward birthday, but this is what the pod's about. And
I'm sorry, man.
But we're going to go...
So it's a very mixed birthday. But
we're going to go to like the good news about it, I'd say.
I've already blocked out your weekend, your birthday next year anyway. We're going to make it.
I appreciate
plus
that.
value. I've already got ideas to what your gift's going to be as well. It depends on how well things are going, but there's like tiers of gifts that I have in mind for you. So basically, this needs to pop off.
I'm buying you gifts.
So
things do get better.
But tell me the positive. Tell me the positive.
Positive side is, I will honestly say, we've talked about in previous episodes about how like I was a bit of a yes man, and like I was like, just to avoid like I'll just do stuff to like make people happy, like just
the boundaries. Yeah, the boundaries.
Yeah, the boundaries. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this was like a shock to the system of what I will and won't tolerate from people. You know what I mean? In terms of like, I had the conversation with Sarah, and like, obviously she was just like, oh, I'm so sorry I didn't like, she's amazing. I don't want anyone to ever hear this and be like, what the fuck, this girl did nothing or this. No, she's an amazing person, right? I was going through my shit. She did, at the end of the day, entertain everyone in the group chat. Even the people who were there, she kept them entertained. She was there to make sure her friends, who were also my friends, but mainly hers, at least turned up. She was there to make sure that the girls were like comfortable. They were having their own kikis in the corner. She was present, and I've got to appreciate that. I was sensitive about the fact that my friends didn't even bother to message me that they couldn't come. And I think I was sensitive about her basically making fun of me in the group chat. And then those same people responded to her making fun of me, but not respecting me enough to even say, oh, I can't make it.
Yeah, that's fucked. That's fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what upset me.
Yeah.
So I don't want anyone to like take from this like, oh, this bitch didn't even do nothing for his birthday. Like, he deserves better. Like, no. Like, I appreciate you like looking after my feelings. Allow it. She's a wonderful person. The main thing I've learned from this is it was a harsh reminder of how much value I place on the needs of others compared to me. And I think it was like, and I'm being very clear in terms of highlighting people who said they couldn't make it versus people who didn't message at all, right? Because the people who said they could make it, in my head, that's respect. Like, you saw value in me to kind of go, hey, sorry, can't make it. Like, for this, whatever reason, whatever BS reason at time, whatever it is, I appreciate that people took the time to let me know. There are people who I put effort into like, how you doing? We'll go on nights out, I'll buy drinks. We'll kiki together, we'll laugh about life, and that's all this stuff. I put my energy into you.
Yeah.
And they didn't get it back. And as petty as like, oh, it was only a birthday, it's more like I give 110, and I know you shouldn't do things to expect something from others, but at the end of the day, you do. Like, deep down, you do nice things because you want others to treat you like you treat them. It was more like you kind of feel like you've got a shit deal when you don't get that. When the instances where you're feeling sensitive and you don't get that deal back.
Yeah.
And I was cut that. And I was like, well, they can't be blamed because there was never a point where I sat there and went, I'm doing this to help you out, blah, blah. And I can't assume that, oh, we're besties because I see them as a bestie. You see what I mean? So I kind of sat back and I looked and I was like, why do I actually care so much about someone treating me right? Why do I put so much effort to treat them right and hoping that they would validate me? And it was a massive wake-up call that I have felt more refreshed. Now I've kind of like got over it. I felt more like calm. I felt like I've got more social battery because I'm not processing what everyone thinks. Because quite frankly, in the room, I only care about what a select few people think rather than what everyone thinks in that room. Yeah. Because I don't want to be in a position again where the next birthday comes around and I'm being nice because I want you to be there. You see what I mean? Like, I am being more efficient with how I give out my positive vibes. And it's been very helpful, even in work. It's been very helpful because I've set boundaries of, I'm not picking up this task because That's literally not my requirement to do so. But additionally, there's no actionable evidence right now that I'm going to be rewarded for this. I'm not going to burn myself out in hopes that you recognize it and reward me. That kind of, like, there's certain behaviors that I'm no longer doing. And no, it doesn't make me the 110 the best employee ever. But in response to that, I still do above and beyond a good quality of my job. In response to that, if I'm expected to do more for others, there's always room for you to tell me what I need to do and how you would reward me for it. Right? Don't just sit back and go, Sam's always been so nice. He stopped. Sam, why have you... No. Ask yourself, why have I stopped? And then ask yourself, what can you do to make it worth my time to help you?
Absolutely,
that's
man.
That's rant over. And that's how I feel. I feel good.
Yeah, that's good, man. Yeah, I think I've had similar experiences with this, where it's like, you know, you give a lot to people who you consider your friends and things like that. And, you know, I think there's very, very few opportunities where you should give a shit. And I think, like, if you invite someone, it's just common courtesy, right? But it's like what your mum said, it's like common sense and common people, right?
Exactly.
So,
that woman speaks fast.
Bro, the amount of times I've repeated this since then. But it's true. So it's like, even though, like, you know, it's just that your standard of what it is to treat someone good is a lot higher than theirs. And what helped me with this is that you can't expect everybody to be like you. And it's not people outright being malicious or looking to be disrespectful. It's just that they aren't at the same level you are. And once I accept, basically, Sam, people are stupid, right? And you've got to accept that some people are just idiots. And some of them might be your mates. And that's genuinely it. Just to cut through the bullshit and try and be very PC. That's basically it.
Literally it. It is literally it.
That's literally it. And, you know, I know who my close mates are. I know who my best mates are. I know who are... And there's one thing which I heard as well, and it made me really reflect on uni in particular, is that who are your friends when you aren't drinking? Because do you actually have friends or do you have drinking buddies? And once I heard that, I was like, Dad, there's a lot of people who I saw who I only saw when we drank. And the amount of times I've said to people like, oh, this is the first time we've actually spoken sober. And I'm like, yeah, that wasn't a friend at all. That was just someone who I saw on nights out and like drank with. So yeah, no, you just know who your friends are, man. And like, you got to go by people's actions and not by what they say. And this is very, very difficult to do because people are professional bullshitters and they get really, really good at it. To the point where you can forget to be like, okay, like they're saying this, but they're doing this. And you sometimes just have to be like, they're going by this. I'm not going to even bother inviting them next time. If they ask why didn't you invite me? I'll be like, the past 3 times I've invited you, you've come up with some bullshit excuse and haven't given me the time of day, and I just couldn't be asked to do it again. And that's where you have to get to. And if you can give people solid evidence, just be like, look, this is what you've done. I can't be asked. It's just, again, it's a waste of your energy. So allocate your energy, Sam, to those that care about you. And that's the best gift you could have got on your birthday.
That was the greatest gift. Thank you, dickheads.
Yeah.
Anyway,
dickheads have a place in the world, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah,
they all have. We don't need. It is what it is. But that was. I think the rest of my highlights play a significant role in what we're going to discuss today.
Okay.
So I don't want to like go too deep, but today's focus is networking. But before we do that, I want to ask about your highlights. What happened this week, and then like the good and the bad. Let's do that. Because I know you said we had to talk about something positive, and I feel like I've done my positive in terms of my experience.
And again, it nicely segues into what we're talking about as well.
Exactly.
Because it's all related. So, as Sam previously mentioned, we didn't record our episode last week. Obviously, there'll be no gap for you, man. But I went to a networking event. So I'm going to tell the story of how this went about. Okay. So at like the beginning of May, there's like a little like food market going on in like my village where I live. And so me and a couple of my housemates went there. In fact, it was a day of Eurovision. It was actually Euro. Sorry, there's a fly. There we go. Yeah, day of Eurovision, there was like a food market out by where I live. And me and my flatmates go eat there, chill. This guy comes over. His name's Keith. And, you know, he lives in the area and he's like, starts chatting to us. We're like, oh, what do you guys do? Da, da, da. I live in this building. So we get chatting, tell him what we do, ask him what he does. And he goes, oh, I'm doing this, hosting a event for people, like startups, entrepreneurs, things like that, and inviting people who live in East Village, because there's a lot of people who live here who are doing like amazing things and they're really lovely people and things like that. So gave us a card and was like, if you want to come through, come through. It's on the 30th of did he say 30th? Yeah, I think it was like 30th. No, it was your birthday. Yeah, 30th.
It was my birthday.
Yeah, 30th. And so I was like, cool, I'll definitely go, because, you know I need to like work on my networking. My flatmates couldn't make it in the end, so it was initially going to be me, one of my flatmates, but he couldn't make it. So, but within a few hours' notice, so I'm going on my own. And as I've mentioned, I'm quite introverted, so this was outside of my comfort zone. So, you know, literally came back from work, like grab some food, like put on blazer, like freshened up and stuff. And then like it's literally like a few minute walk away, and it was in like the Stratford Hotel. And I go in there, and you're gonna laugh at this, because basically you have to check in, and I was on the guest list because I didn't sign up and like pay for a ticket because I spoke to Keith. And this woman is like, hi, what's your name? And I go, hi, Lewis Facey, I'm here for the it's called Network and Chill. It's called Network and Chill event. He was like, oh, cool. And there's all these lanyards in the different colors, and there's just like tech, finance, media, whatever. And she goes, oh, are you an entrepreneur? And I go, yes.
I want to be.
So yes. So but that's how I was categorized. It was the most fitting one. And because like this is like the first time I had been referred to as an entrepreneur. And this lanyard said it was like entrepreneurs and bright ideas, and like all these different people had like different colored lanyards based off like what they do. And there wasn't one for like film and like editing and things like that. There probably was a creative one that was probably like better, but again, that's another thing, which is like, I don't want to say, am I creative? But yeah, so
you are.
It was the first time I had like, people were like, entrepreneur, and I was like, yeah, I suppose. Like it's like we started it. I was like,
okay,
it's like
sorry.
So yeah, I go in there. Like there's like I think it's over 100 people went to this. And I was like, okay. Like I was actually like on my own. I realized I had no idea. I couldn't see the guy Keith who I met like straight away. So I immediately just went straight to the bar and got a drink, just to like, because I didn't know what to do with my hands. I was like, why am I nervous? And I texted Rosie before I left. She was like, there's going to be other people there who are on their own, who are going to also be nervous, and you're all going for the same thing. And I was like, oh yeah, I never really thought of it that way. Then I calmed down. So yeah, found Keith, chatted to him, he introduced me to someone who he knows who has like his own shoe brand and things like that. And then like once I spoke to like one person, like I felt very comfortable then. And then was like, yeah, got chatting to people, went to the bar, spoke to this guy, goes by the name, I hope it doesn't, yeah, he won't mind, goes by the name of Dammy. So me and Dammy get talking, he asks what I do, and it's very interesting because I now had to say like 3 things, because before I was like, oh, I work at such and such, but I also do this, but I also do this. So by the end of the night, I was like, oh, hi, I'm Lewis, I work here. I also, I'm a video editor, starting my own companies, on studios, and I'm a co-host of a podcast. So those are my 3 things now.
Let's go.
So by the end of the night, I was just like, yeah, video editor, working in marketing, and a podcast host. And they were like, oh, right. And so I was like, that's really weird. I got into like the flow of it. But anyway, you're going to find it. The world is so fucking small, Sam. So I was speaking to this guy called Dammy, telling me about what his company does. Really amazing stuff, like big tech, Forbes State under 30. Like the guy's killing it, and he's like really cool dude. Get each other's details. Give him my phone to like type in his Instagram. He types in his name on my phone, and he goes, "Oh, how do you know Christian Facey?" And I was like, "That's my brother." He was like, "Oh, you're Lewis." And I was like, "Oh, how do you know Christian?" He goes, he invested in my company." I was like, "You fucking what?"
You're pissed. What did you get for Christmas? What did you get for Christmas?
He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, he's an investor." And I was like, "I swear." Yeah, just really funny moments. Yeah, world is so small. Then he introduced me to people, and then like people get started talking, and basically, yeah, it was a really, really cool event. And what I also noticed was like there were people there who were like 25 and were interested in starting businesses. There was a graduate who I spoke to who had like, he was basically doing like machine learning and coding and things like that. People were asking me for advice, whereas I went there for advice. And so it doesn't matter what level you are, you're always going to be a little bit ahead of someone else whose feedback will be useful. And that was kind of like my main key takeaway. Like,
nice.
That is actually useful advice that I give to someone. And I spoke to this woman about the end of that. She was like, "Thank you so much for like your words. Like you've really inspired me, and like I'm really gonna like think about it."
That's not weird thing though. That's not feel weird. Yeah.
Bear in mind, we had talks of people talk about how they got like 4.5 million seed funding, and I just basically had a chat on like how to get started and how to like measure your success and comparison, all this sort of things, because I've been there. And she was like, "Yeah, you really helped me out." And I was like, "Damn." And the graduate I spoke to, what I said to him, I was like, "I'm gonna no bullshit you. You need to speak to every single person in this room and offer to do work for them for free." Because and I was like, "They pay you, great," but I was like, because like these startups sound amazing, and I was like, "Dude, if you can get in these startups now, you're going to fly, and you just need to grind it out for a bit and just be like, what can I do to get something?" But no, it was really awesome. Met a lot of cool people, and it completely blew my expectations, and it's definitely something which I want to start doing more. And what I did beforehand, like there's a podcast I listened to called Optimize Yourself, and it's basically a film editor who's started a podcast, and he basically said for editors, like, you need to network or die. It's literally like, if you don't network, if you don't do outreach, you are going to fail. And I kind of had this moment today where I was like, thinking about like outreach and things like that, and I was kind of dissecting myself. I was listening to Mel Robbins again of like why, like, and listening to this episode of like feeling stuck and going to like the root cause of what makes you feel this way. And what I've come to notice is like, because there was a time period where I was desperate looking for like jobs after having like a bad work experience and like constantly getting rejected for like months and months and months and months on end. It's now kind of ingrained in me a little bit. It's something which I need to unlearn, because sometimes I can't be asked to like do that email or reach out to the person because I feel like it's just going to get me nowhere. And it's something which I need to kind of like unlearn. And so I'm kind of switching it to like, okay, if I don't do this email, then nothing's going to happen. However, if I do send it out, there's a small chance that you're going to get something. And it's just a matter of how many goes. And it's like what I said to you last week. It's like that Gary Vee when he said that when we're like, entrepreneurship is just failing a shitload of times for one thing to work. And I need to sometimes remember that when I have like waves of self-doubt. Today was one of those days at work. And again, it's because I didn't do those things that put me in a good mood, like slept badly, didn't work out.
What was the bad thing that happened? Are you able to talk about it?
Thing is, it wasn't particularly anything. It was just my routine was just way off today. And it was like, didn't work out, didn't sleep well, tired. And it lets my lesser self creep back up. And this is what I've come to terms with particularly is like, your lesser self, like the one that isn't productive, the one that doesn't work out, the one that eats badly, it's still there. Like, that never goes. Yeah. You can beat it down to like 1%, like 0.1%, but like if I throw myself off routine, right, for like a couple of days, yeah, he comes back. And it's really weird. And it's like, you think like you might have outgrown that lesser version of yourself. It's still there. And that was just one thing which I was like, I'm really thinking like the way that I used to. And it's because I wasn't doing all these things like, my sleep's been off for a few days and, eating wasn't right, wasn't hydrating. And it's like, I'm doing these bad habits that I used to do.
It's the habits.
It's the habits,
bad habits.
And yeah, it really kind of, it kind of struck me today. But overall, man, yeah, the past couple of weeks have been really good. The networking event, I got a good high from that. I need to do what I struggle with, what I said in the first episode, is like the follow-ups, because now I want those actions to lead to somewhere.
Got caught up in the excitement of chitty chat.
Yeah, man.
And now you got to act on all this stuff that you agreed to do. All these conversations. It's like, yeah, let's catch up. You got. It's like
it's like when you see your friends like that you rarely see. It's like, yeah, we need to do this more often, and then you never do.
You get home, you're like, there's a reason we don't do this more often. I'm tired.
Yeah. So I'm trying to put the onus on me to kind of be proactive. I just saw a note. There's one more thing I really want to talk about, which was really, really fucking good. And it's very inspiring. So I went to the Shits and Gigs show.
Yes. That sounds at the O2. So good. I'm so jealous. It looked amazing.
It feels so weird because I felt so proud of these two, man. Because because 99% of podcasts are big because they're already famous, right?
Right. That's true.
Whereas these two were like just regular people. And it's sort of O2. And I don't think any other podcast show has done that.
No. You know what?
I know Chris and Rosie Ramsey, Shaq Merritt and Lloyd, they did Wembley Arena, not Stadium.
Their podcasts, you land, but I'll touch on that, you land. We've got to talk about networking at some point as well.
Yeah, we all do networking. I've all come back to networking. But the cool part was like afterwards, because it was like me and Rosie with like Ricky, we went to, there's like Be At One, which is just outside the O2.
Yeah.
And we went there for a drink because, tubes are going to be rammed and everything like that. There was an after party going on upstairs. And you had like Harry Pinero, Darkest, like all basically walked past. And I was like, this is so cool, man. And considering like these people were, of course I didn't go upstairs. It was guest list only. But I was just like, you know what? I was like, it's going to be our turn one day, Sam. It's going to be our turn one day.
Networking, Lewis.
And
waffle your way into that room.
And I was like, it's gonna be our turn. It's gonna be our turn one day. And Sam, when it happens, because it will, I'm putting it out there now. I'm gonna remember where I stood. I'm gonna see the people standing there. I'm gonna be like, yeah, you want to come upstairs? That is my dream goal now. I'm gonna be like, I remember standing here with 15 listeners a week, and I was like, and now we've done it. So.
Facts.
Basically, we need to do an O2 show.
More than that a week now. We've actually got more than that a week. Looking at the numbers, we passed 15 now.
But basically, Sam, we need to do an O2 show because it's now a goal of mine.
Before we jump into maybe I'll segue in.
Segue in because
the live show. I've been to another podcast's live show, and it was my first ever one that I've been to, and it was a bit naff because it was just their podcast, but on stage, and they just repeated like their best stories. But if you listen to the podcast regularly, you've already like heard the best stories in Spotify version. You found it so funny, you've already watched it on YouTube. You've keyed so much that you've seen it on TikTok and shared it with your mates. I've seen it on Reels and shared it with my mates. I've seen it on YouTube Shorts and sent it to people on WhatsApp. I've seen the content so often. So then to pay for tickets to watch it live, and then to see it all being repeated again was just like, heard that one before. It's like when your mate sends you a meme you've already sent to 12 other people, but you had to pay to watch it again. And I hated that. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of sat back. I was like, why do people come to these things? And then I went to Chris and Rosie Ramsey's one, and they've got like dance segments. They've got like funny. They've got like a whole comedy show before, like with one of Chris's mates. They've got like a little like dance off between the two of them. I was like, this is what a live show should be like. It should be different from your pod. It should be entertaining. And all I hoped was that's what Shits and Gigs would be and more. And from what I saw on the stories, I was pissed I didn't buy a ticket. I know we're promoting their podcast, and so be it. Let them know I said it. Like, share it with them, people. I want to meet them again. I don't think they remember me from the first time. I'm not even going to tell the story until I meet them, how I saw them from afar.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, it was an amazing. That's what I think live shows should be. And every time I think about, one day if we do a live show, bro, I'm imagining like a drone show. I'm imagining like, if possible, indoor fireworks and pyrotechnics. I'm imagining like, I don't know. Who's the biggest like musician right now? Like Dave or someone does our intro. I'm just thinking all out. Like I want like a Tyson Fury boxing ring walking level energy, right? I want sparklers. I want people with like cheerleaders. I want all of this. I'm speaking into existence. So when it comes, I don't even want a rider. I don't want the theatre to go, Sam, what do you want? I'm like, watch this episode. Go watch that episode. You know what I want? Do that.
Yeah.
It's like sick.
It
was sick.
Yeah, it was good, man. And they just said we got flames for no reason. They just pointed. There's just like flames. And I was like, yeah.
Didn't Kevin Hart do that? When Kevin Hart's like, hit with some fire. Like, yeah, that's what I want. But yeah. Anyway, so networking. It's really hard to come from such an entertaining. I'm joking. Networking is entertaining. Networking is actually entertaining, and it's where I have made multiple mistakes that I've learned from since, and I think it's made me better in terms of one, how I sell myself, and no, not that I've got an OnlyFans, in terms of selling myself for money-making opportunities, for jobs, selling myself in terms of making better connections, so I can develop my ideas and actually get into the right rooms to talk about my ideas and see who's interested in it and see who wants to take the idea forward with me. Networking essentially plays a massive role in being confident in yourself and what you stand up for. And it puts you in a position where it could go one of two ways. People will validate your ideas because they're good. Well, more than two ways. People will validate your ideas because they're good. People will call your bullshit. Or people will validate your ideas just because they want some of your energy. They want your energy around them. And sometimes they'll play lip service. And it does go good or bad. It can go good in terms of the right people will give you the commentary you need to develop yourself more and will give you the confidence you need to go forwards and actually try your idea out. Some people will also just blow smoke up your ass just because they're not clear on what they're talking about. And if what you're saying is wrong, but aligns with what they're talking about, they'll just love you because what you're doing isn't giving them newfound information. You're validating their craziness, which they see you as validation for, and in turn, they will validate your craziness. And together, hand in hand, you'll go to the end of the world, screwing up together. And that can happen easily in a networking session because you're talking to someone and you inherently have to believe them off the face of what they say and what they stand for. Because that label is very powerful. Someone wears a badge and it says founder of this and that. Someone wears a badge and says, entrepreneur. Or it could be anything, right? But that badge is basically certification that they're an expert of whatever's followed by their name on that badge. And people just take your word for it. And if someone's really clued in the industry, they will be able to spot your bullshit, but they would often call you out because they're in a room where people are looking out for positive energy, where people are looking out for someone who's approachable. And in that room, you're not trying to look like the dick who's basically like, screw you, blah, blah. You're not trying to be the negative person in there. So because of that, you don't get people overtly cussing you out. Or you don't get people overtly calling you BS. You will know when people call you BS when they don't follow up a conversation with you. But it's really hard in networking to split the difference between that and someone who generally just is a dick and doesn't want to work with you. So I found my secret weapon in networking is body language. Just trying to get better at reading people's body language and trying to get better to make the most out of the words I use in the questions I ask in conversations. I remember when we were planning this episode, I was telling about how I feel like I've got a really good approach towards getting what I want in a conversation. And it's been trial and error. I want to be able to sit here and say, oh, I learned in reading this book. So I tried to read some books about NLP, like neuro language, whatever it is. It's like how to use your words to get what you want. And no is not an answer to them type of books, right? It's not that, right?
Hey, I kind of bad. That's kind of bad.
Pause. Heavy pause, please.
Yeah.
But it's more like, I'll be honest in saying, no matter what books I've read, I'm not really unless it's research papers, I'm not really a book kind of person. I'm more about videos, trial and error.
Yeah.
All that stuff, right? So I've come to learn that in conversations, I throw out key terms in search of what the person questions and their reaction to what I'm saying. Often at that point, I believe in what I'm saying. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not just chatting crap all the time for the sake of like, oh, I'm testing you. I don't have like a God complex where I'm above you and I'm testing your skill set. No, I'm trying to see which things cause you to like get triggered or cause you to be like interested. Because in most cases, if I'm talking to you, I'm not going to look at your badge and go, oh, you're amazing because you're this person. I probably would have seen your name, taken the time to look you up on LinkedIn quickly to see what you do, what you've actually got under your name, do a little company's house research, find out what you do, what other directorships do you have, try and see what you've actually put your name down for and what you can be taken seriously for. And then in that conversation, it would literally be asking questions around that topic in fields that I know my stuff in. So it'll be like in tech, asking certain questions. Like if I'm talking to someone about APIs or something, asking about like, what service do you use? Have you got Amazon API gateway, all these kind of stuff? I wouldn't ask it directly. I'll talk about topics around that. And sometimes the easiest facial cue to spot to see if someone thinks you're chatting shit or to see if someone wants more clarity in general in what you're saying is they grimace sometimes. They'll be like when you say certain things, and I look out for that because then to me it's like, oh, okay. And then I'll dig deeper on that bit you've grimaced on. I'm like, oh, like what is everything all right? Like I'll try and clarify a bit more. I'll try and get them to clarify on what they've reacted negatively to and expand on it. If you just let me rattle on for ages and keep smiling and nodding throughout all of it without any like negatives or without any like question of why I'm talking, in most cases, you don't know what I'm talking about. In most cases, you are just waiting for me to get to a point where you can sell me whatever it is you're going to sell me.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
And if you do all that smiling, at least if you do all that smiling and you admit like, hey, I'm not that clued in on the tech, I respect that in terms of, I don't think I'm amazing and oh my God, I shocked you. I think more like you've been noticing that this isn't a conversation that I can talk to you about and learn from you on. But it's something that I think, okay, you're not clued in on it, but I guess maybe I am more. So it's something that I have a selling point towards you. Like, this is how I can sell myself to you in terms of, well, this is something I'm a bit more clued in on. So I can share knowledge on that. Because let's be honest, I'm talking to you because you've got knowledge in a field that I am not clued in on. Yeah. And I want to learn and develop in. And then that's where I'll kind of turn around and be like, okay, so now I've got your buy-in because you stood here, you showed interest in what I'm saying. You've been honest in saying you don't know anything about it and you want to learn more. So I've got something to sell you. So in response, you would then likely be wanting to sell me something. And my hopes in the conversation is for you to sell me the thing I wish to learn more about in this knowledge sharing discussion we're having during this network meeting. Yeah. And if at that point, when the person touches around that topic, I'll jump on that and I'll be honest in saying, I really like that. I really want to learn about that. And I'd say, not 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10 times, it's ended up in a really good relationship where I'm clear on what that person is interested in. I've already validated them before I spoke to them. I like to think they think I'm worth their time because obviously I'm talking to you because I think I might be worth your time. I'm hoping to exchange that for something. And to this day, most of those people I'm still talking to. Similar topics, they've developed because that person's probably found someone who's better than me at doing that thing. But it's led down the path of us having a friendly relationship where we can talk about other topics. And if I have any issues around mental health, wherever it is, I've literally got a Rolodex of people I can just talk to because I've met them at other networking events. and I can reach out to them. So yeah, in a roundabout way, networking events will blow smoke up your ass. They will get you thinking, oh, I'm amazing. But there's also the risk of people giving you the wrong advice or sending you in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And I think that's I'm definitely about to blow smoke up my own ass there. But I think that's a good starting point because I think there's a lot more to delve into in this conversation.
Absolutely, man. There was one book which my dad gave me, which my granddad gave him, and you've probably heard of it. It's probably like one of the most famous networking books or communication books all the time. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And I read this when I was like maybe like 20 or something like that. But basically goes into like, you gotta, I think it breaks down like you have to figure out like, what do people want, what do they desire, and basically figure it out from there. One of the main things that I took from this book is you actually have to have a genuine interest in getting to know the person. And when I like using this networking event as an example, because it's obviously the most recent, it's like I'm going there to meet people, and I actually really appreciate like just being invited and actually getting to know people who are like-minded, and that's like the main thing. And one of the main things which I think I said to you in the earlier pod episode is like people always ask you like, oh, what do you do? Right? It's because they're trying to figure out, one, low-key, how much respect to give to you, and how are you going to help me? So I actually avoid that question as much as I can, or I rephrase it in a particular way. And I think that makes like a huge difference. And like, taking that, and obviously you got, like remember to say like people's names, like once you know them and things like that. And it weirdly does work when you repeat someone's name in a conversation. It's not necessarily intentional, but I noticed that you'll do this during the pod. You will say Lewis, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's talking to me. And like I tried it in one episode as well. I tried to say Sam a lot more, just to like, because it re-engages you. But one thing which, again, I can smell bullshit very, very far away because of the industry I'm in. And because it's weird with networking, because you're going there to meet people and to like exchange value. However, you don't want to be seen as like you're trying to impress people with the shit that you're saying. So it's a bit of a catch-22. And one of the things that media has kind of made me get rid of, because I hate how people look when they're just ego talking, is that I actually do the hard opposite, and I'm actually just very transparent. And it's like when I said like, oh, got the entrepreneurship lanyard and things like that, and people ask, oh, what do you do? And I was like, as mentioned, like work at NBC Universal, and I have a podcast and start a video editing company. I was like, and I actually brought up the discussion. I was like, what do you guys think about the word entrepreneur, and like what classes entrepreneurship? And then we actually got into that conversation, as opposed to like, oh, what do you do? Oh, this is what I do. And what do you do? Like actually talk about something that was on your mind. And it came like just off the fly, because again, I said like, I don't call myself an entrepreneur. People were like, yeah, I don't either. I think it's really weird. And one of the guys said to me, you actually think you can call yourself an entrepreneur in terms of like numbers. And what you meant by that is like, you've started loads of companies, or like you started and failed companies like numerous occasions. That's when you think you can consider yourself an entrepreneur. And I actually really like that, because a lot of entrepreneurs have like more than like one company. Like, Hermosi's had like 9 companies and things like that. Whereas for me, it's like I started a video editing company because I like video editing. I haven't started like 5 businesses. Do you know what I mean? So I actually quite liked discussing people's perspective. And then you go around, oh, what is it that you do and things like that, as opposed to just being like, hi, my name's Lewis, nice to meet you. Yeah, what do you do? Like, you discuss like, oh, do you know Keith, who because he invited me to the event, and like I discussed like how we met. And it's something different than just like immediately trying to go to like the what do you do, why you're important. And you've got to like sandwich it in, right? because obviously you want the meat in the middle, pause, but you gotta bullshit. You gotta bullshit around it first. Do you know what I mean? And so, because I'm not to toot my own horn, but I'm quite good of objectively knowing how I look when I'm talking to someone. Right. So I immediately didn't want to go like, oh yeah, hi, I'm Lewis. Yeah, I edit videos and, but yeah, I can edit your videos. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to go about it that way. So instead of, I think for networking, I know I've gone a bit of a tangent, but I think what goes well for me in particular is actually taking a genuine interest and focusing on the other person entirely and what they do. And then if they ask you what you do, then that's where you exchange value. I don't go to impress myself. I actually go because I actually want to learn from these other people and understand what they do. And if they ask me what I do, then I'll tell them what I do. And if they see value in that, that's great. As opposed to being like, I really want to tell everybody about editing and that I can do editing for them.
I have a question, mainly because I've been in this. This is a question I've been asked by a few people. A bit of background. So I do a lot of panel talks. Well, a lot. I do some panel talks for the Nottingham Business School, where like I'm Sam. I'll either go based on my day job, which is as a product manager. I'll go and I'll talk on behalf of like someone in a STEM company doing product management, or I will go as a founder of Anxious Extrovert. And regardless of how I turn up there, a common question I get from students especially is how to get the confidence to ask someone for help, or how to get the confidence to actually reach out and have that conversation with someone. Because networking is essentially finding friends to help you. That's literally it. You shouldn't go to a networking event necessarily. Well, you should go if you want investment and everything, but the core part of networking is finding someone to see you as a friend in the weirdest way possible. A friend with a shared interest, but it's a friend at the end of the day. Absolutely. With weird benefits. And that's how I always tell students who come and ask me how to be confident. And one of the saddest responses I guess I get, not sad, but one response I get that kind of hits me emotionally is when someone just says, I don't really have many friends, or I struggle to make friends. And my instant response to that is, I hear you, but you're talking to me right now. You know that, right? Like, we're having this conversation right now. You don't know who I am. And then it would be like, oh, well, it's because you're on the panel and everything. And then I realized that it's almost like going to a doctor and saying you're depressed. You wouldn't tell everyone that. You tell someone who you see as some form of authority, or someone you think is in that position to help you. You're more likely to open up. So my response is switching the mindset in a networking session. If you're willing to come up to someone like me, and you're holding me with high regard, and I've just fucking cried about my friends didn't turn up to my birthday party, like most children do, right? But if you're turning up to a network session and you're willing to open up to someone because they're on a panel and talk to them and try and get information out of them, put that same image you have of that person, grab it, and then place it on someone you want to work with you, or place it on someone who is a close friend, someone you want to befriend and you want to kind of work with, collaborate with. Place that same energy, that vision you have of that authority figure onto that person and proceed with your conversation in the same way, because there is so much value in being vulnerable. There's so much value in being clear in what you need help with, and there's so much value in being clear in what your capabilities are. And I want to be really careful about the capabilities part, because I've also come across a lot of ridiculously arrogant people who think they're God's gift. And like, I respect your confidence, but what on earth are you talking to me for, and what can I help you with if you're perfect at everything? Because you came to me, and at this moment, I personally I don't need your help on anything, but you're going to tell me you're amazing. I don't like people like that. I don't like people who want me to basically kiss their feet every 5 words.
Yeah.
I can't, because when I'm talking to someone, I'm imagining working in the room with you, and people like that piss me off. So I can imagine me getting nothing done because you're pissing me off. So anyway, what I'm saying is put that energy on someone else and be vulnerable and clear with them, because like I said, when I'm talking to someone, and I'm asking for their help to collaborate with me, I imagine working in a room with them 5 days out of a week. Be clear to yourself that you're talking to someone you want to collaborate with, and that has to be someone that you can be yourself around, someone that you're comfortable to be critiqued by, and it's important to allow people to critique you. So someone you're comfortable to be vulnerable in front of and to be critiqued by and to develop with. And it's like trying to meet a significant other, right? It's that cliche thing of, oh, be yourself, the right one will come. That really is true, because you can only fake being someone else for so long before it breaks you. You have to be yourself. You have to embrace who you are. And yes, you are a terrible public speaker. Yes, you're terrible at introducing yourself. Keep doing it and you'll get better. But if you fake being amazing,
rewind, listeners, go back 30 seconds, listen to that shit again.
But it is bloody took me off my... Anyway, I'm back.
Sorry, bro.
I'm back. No, I'm back. It's important that you are yourself. Even if you're a shit public speaker, even if you're terrible at articulating your thoughts, keep trying with practice. Practice makes perfect. You will get better at it. What you don't want to do is oversell your abilities to a level that you can't even reach, to a level that you can't fulfill within whilst you're saying it, and then be put in a position where you're tested.
Yeah.
Because people will remember when you fail, especially when you fuck them over by failing.
100%.
A lot more than they'll remember your successes that you've had for someone else. People,
Absolutely,
because that personal experience of, I can't trust you to do what you say you can do, will stick in their heads forever. And a few episodes back, I say a few episodes because we've not really done as crazy number of episodes right now. You probably only have to go back about 10 episodes. But a few episodes back, we talked about how it's a small world. And if you trash it, if you're a dick, the world will get around. Entrepreneurship circles are small because people share dark secrets with each other when they're building businesses.
Yep.
And the true circles stay small. So if someone says that you're a bad person to another person who really trusts them, that's your name done in that small circle, basically. Yep. No one wants to look like a fool in front of their circle of entrepreneurs by completely ignoring the sage advice someone else has given them in that circle to not work with you. They then work with you, then they mess up, and then everyone sat there like, we literally told you so, why didn't you listen? You've literally wasted too much money on this person.
Yeah,
so
facts, bro.
You have to be honest. And I'm saying this from experience of, I fibbed before. I've been put in a position where I'd be tested, and thank God I'm an adaptable person. Thank God I'm willing to stay up. Like, I'm willing to do 4 hours of sleep in a week just to learn the skill I need to do to cover my back. Because I've been put in positions where I've literally been sat there. I started, wherever project is, it's 8 a.m. I'm there 12 p.m. the next day wondering, why the hell did I say I could do this when I literally didn't even know what to do? Like, I thought I could, and now I know how, but was it worth it? Because my nose is bleeding. You know what I mean? So, like, I've been put in those positions, and yes, I was able to, like, I was still able to solve the goal. I was still able to, like, give them the answers I wanted. But I hated it so much, I didn't want to ever do it again.
Yeah.
It's unlikely that everyone is willing to burn themselves out to do that. And and I didn't get the value I wanted back. So it generally was not worth me doing what I did.
Yeah. It's
long story short, just be yourself, man.
Yeah.
Just be yourself.
It's a tricky card to play, man, when you're, you gotta know where your limits are.
Exactly.
But 100%, man. And I think for me, it's being yourself, and like, you, just to repeat what you said, is being honest. One thing which I also want to add on is stop putting people on a pedestal. Like, people are just people, like, at the end of the day. And that's the one thing which I always have going in, and particularly at this networking event, like, the same person who's delivering a quick 2-minute presentation on how they got 5 million funding, I speak to them the same way I speak to an 18-year-old graduate who has no experience and he's looking to get to know people. Treat everybody equally, and
you get more respect.
You get way more respect, and people
so much
notice. And like, and the thing is, right, you can see someone who's like, oh, you know, 30 under 30, and, you know, got all this funding. But if you see them like blank an 18-year-old graduate because you don't think they're worth their time, I don't respect that person anymore. And I low-key hope they fuck up because they're a bad person. Like,
you're
do you know what I mean?
But
like,
just there waiting for people's demise.
But I'm just a bit like, there's no reason to treat people badly just because, you know, they're not a tech CEO or whatever the fuck.
That's so true.
I saw it a little bit, like, because obviously people gonna want to talk to the people who are like doing amazing things, right? But at the same time, like, speak to everybody in the room, because like, not everybody's going to be like really loud about what they're doing. And it's like what we said before, it's like, speak to the person who's quietest in the room, because you probably will learn the most from them.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you a quick story, actually, because this just popped in my head and I wrote it down. So when I joined my current company, on the second day, there was a like golfing event, like swingers. It was like 18 holes and like drinks and stuff like that. And so I obviously know nobody because I'm new. So when I walk into the room, there's like 60 people already there. When I go in, like they basically all look at me, and I basically go like, "Hi, I'm new." I literally just said that and just like broke the ice immediately. And I don't care. Like, I was like, I don't know these people, and also at work. So I go around, introduce myself to people, and I chat to one guy called Justin. So, you know, we get chatting, like, you know, really well. He complimented like my shoes because I wore like Jordans, and then like we just started chatting about Jordans and stuff like that. And he says like, "Oh, I work in like this department," right? So we're talking, and you know, like some people join the conversation like after like 5 minutes, and some are like account directors and things like that. And like I'm noticing like a few people are like observing me quite a lot, which I thought was quite weird. But basically, me and this guy Justin were just like chatting like we're boys, and just having like a really like chill time, and then go do golf, whatever, go home. Next day, like about 3, 4, 5 people came up to me being like, "Oh, Justin's like a big fan of you. You two are like good buddies, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, like Justin's cool. Like, oh, yeah, cool." And it's like, turns out this guy Justin's like VP of like some shit in the building, and I didn't know. I genuinely didn't know. He's like he's VP of like one of like the biggest teams. Okay. And I was just like, oh, cool. Like I literally just like I didn't really care. I wasn't like, oh shit, like what did I say? But I'm glad I didn't know, because I just spoke to him like I normally would, and that was the biggest lesson I had in terms of like just chat to people like normally. Because I was wondering why like these AEDs are like laughing extra hard at his jokes, and I was just like, fuck, it's not that funny. Like,
it's jarring,
and
so
like
cringy. I hate it so much. Like get out his ass. Like, what are you doing?
I was like, you got
have some respect for yourself,
innit? And I was like, I will never be like that. And I was just like, just chatting. I was like, what the fuck are you laughing so hard for, bro? Like, and that was the biggest lesson I had. Like people are just people at the end of the day. And one of the guys who I spoke to at a networking event, he was saying how the guy Keith who got me to the event was like a master networker. And this other guy I was talking to was basically talking about him and how like he works with like footballers. Like he's done like videos of like Ian Wright on his Instagram and things like that, which is pretty cool. And he was saying like he was texting Keith being like, oh, like Marcus Rashford is over there, like, oh, should I go? Oh, I don't know what to do. He was like, go talk to him. He was like, oh no, I can't. It's like, you literally can. They're just regular people. Like, he's a footballer. Like, cool. Still chat to him. Like, just don't be like over the top and like, because they're probably sick of it. Like, just treat people normally and it probably works. Like, it's just, and that's the one thing that works the best for me, because they're most likely going to collaborate with you if you approach them like an equal, as opposed to putting them on a fucking pedestal and like to worship.
I'll put it this way. So I have 1 or 2 friends that are notable people. I think one is significantly more than another. I wouldn't call ourselves like friends, more like if we're out together in a group.
Is this who I'm thinking of?
You think of Kid?
Yeah,
that's Kid's this one. Yeah. I'd say me and Kids are like friends, but like he would admit himself like I wouldn't like, Kid would not invite me out for drinks if he's in London, right? But if I'm with another friend like Timmy or someone who's a lot closer to Kid, and Timmy's like, oh, I'm with Sam, Kid would be like, yeah, bring him along. Like Kid would be like, more the merrier kind of thing. Like he would be happy to invite me. He wouldn't be like, oh, even if like him and Timmy had an important meeting, he wouldn't mind me being there, but he wouldn't go out of his way to be like, oh, Sam, can we have a chat? That kind of thing. Because like, we're not besties. We're just friends. I've seen And there's also another, Luke is another person. Me and Luke are besties. Like, we're like brothers. So me and Luke are a lot closer. In both cases, I've seen when people get starstruck, and from their perspectives, they're used to it. So they're like, oh, they sense that energy from a mile away. And straight away, they're like, okay, this is a fan coming. And they're like, you could tell, like, it's not like change their character. In most cases, they are who they are still. But like, they prepare themselves. They like build up like an armor to like absorb as much of that like positive energy as possible and like diffuse it, and then so they can go back to normality quickly. One thing that annoys me as someone who watches that and who knows what they're like and watches people approach them is the pretend not to know who they are phase.
Yeah.
And then slowly build into it like, oh, are you that guy from TikTok? You obviously know who he is. Just be like, hey, Luke, hey, kid, nice to meet you. Like, I like your... Just go straight into it, because as someone who's out with them, I'm telling you right now, that 5 seconds of like building up to like pretending to know who they are, we already know you know who they are. You just wasted 5 seconds of a good night out together. Just build up to this. Like, we're not going to be, well, I say we, they're not going to be dicks to you. They're just going to be like, hey, or they'll be honest and say, hey, I can't talk to you right now. But I appreciate your energy and all these things. No, let it go. But like, skip the nonsense, because if someone's in a room where they more or less are expecting people to come to them because they're this name or whatever it is, they already know you know them. Talk to them like a normal human being, where you go, hey, and even if they don't see themselves as that valuable and they're like, oh wow, like, it's still a nice interaction. Just getting to the point of being like, I love your content. Hey, I'm Sam. I love your TikToks. I love your blah, blah. It's amazing. Just skip to it. And the worst case scenario, you'd get a very quick lesson of why not to meet your heroes, which has happened to me once, and I will name who that is. Or you get a quick reminder that, you know what, they are good people or a good person. Carry on the conversation. I would say, I'll put it this way. I did meet one guy when I worked in, I think it's whilst I worked for Uni Days, actually. And he was in one of the offices, and I was quite low level at the time. And I remember seeing him. It was, did you ever watch Anotherhood? Jazzy.
Jazzy. I can't remember the name. Hold on.
Well, he might have been having a bad day that day. He might have been having a bad day, and it was just me, because I know that it was a stressful day at work for everyone that day. So, you know what? I'll allow him.
You're saying Jazzy?
Yeah, he even did... He did, like, the barbershop series for a bit.
Hold on. I recognize him, yeah.
Yeah. So, he was... I remember I was just on my laptop, like, doing my day job. And I looked to my right, and I see him in the kitchen, and I was just like, no way, it's Jazzy. So I literally, like, closed my laptop, run into there like a giddy little schoolgirl, or like, oh my God. But I was probably like, hey, I'm Sam, like, I work in this team, like, I've been watching your content since like back in the day, like, I really love it. It's amazing to meet you. He didn't even shake my hand, he just stared at me until I went away.
Oh,
he just
that breaks my heart.
And I was just looking at him like, you're a dick. Like, you're such a dick. And then I think I remember when, like, long story short, I think the relationship split. Like, they just didn't work. Uni Days, and him and the media team didn't work together anymore. And I remember just being like, you know what, fair play. He's not a nice person. And I will caveat this with, I don't know what's happening in his day. Maybe he just had a really bad day, and maybe he's just looking at me like, oh, for God's sake, who are you? What's going on? Like, I don't need this right now. I don't need, like, it might have been that. But I'm saying this based on, like, in relation to the topic of networking. I just went up to him as a fan, excited to meet someone who's my hero, with no need at all to give him something back, or with no like wish or want to like collaborate to work with him. I just wanted like someone I saw as like an entertainment figure, someone who I saw as like upper echelon, to recognize me and basically say like, oh, hey Sam, I just wanted that little interaction, my little like gold star, and I could tell people like, oh, hey, I met Jazzy, yeah, he was a nice guy. That's what I wanted, really. I didn't get that interaction, but I did. Now I look back at it, I met someone, he wasn't approachable, he wasn't nice to me. If I went there to maybe sell him something, maybe that discussion would have gone in the right way. But in that situation, he was not at a networking event, right? He was not in a situation where he was prepared to meet fans. He was at work. Yeah. He was at work, and he just saw me as another colleague, and he was just looking at me like, what is this happening right now? And the situation, the environment matters. when you're trying to meet someone, when you're trying to collaborate with them. Your approach matters in that space. If we were on a night out and he's had fans coming up to him, I'm sure it might have been a different experience, right? If he was at a networking event, he's expecting people to come up to him. It would have been a different experience. If he's just eating his food with his friends and family and I run up and I start being like, hey, how you doing, blah, blah, I am prepared to expect to be shunned away. In that moment, I have not had enough life experiences. I was not very clear on what that would be. So I did not expect him to just stare me out until I disappeared, because maybe he's had a bad day. I'm probably making excuses for him, and so be it. I'm not going to meet him again. I don't care to. Anyway, what I'm trying to share with the listeners and viewers is the environment and your approach in that environment is a key thing to consider in a networking situation. When you are networking, it's an event where that person expects to be approached. And if in that space they expect to be approached and you're going to them with something to sell and they don't even give you the opportunity to talk to you like a human being, to allow you to talk to them like a human being, that's your first instinct. Don't look down on yourself and go, I said hi, and they literally like looked at me and told me to go and everyone laughed at me. Like, don't let that affect you. Use that as a reminder to basically be like, that's not a person you want to be working with.
Absolutely.
That's not a person that you want to be associated, because you've got positive energy. And you want someone who could either be your voice of reason to tone you down a little bit when you're getting crazy, or to big you up when you're down. You don't want someone who wants you to always be kissing their feet and to look at them like they're God. That's not a mentor. That's someone with an ego complex, right? Absolutely. You need someone that can support you if you're looking for that in the networking session.
And one of the things which, just to kind of piggyback on that, is when, I think I said it in last week's episode in regards to like editing, but when you're networking with these people, like being approachable, being polite, having manners, treating people with respect are you can't teach that. You either are or you're not. But obviously you can learn to be a better person. But I think, for the most part, it's either you're a nice person or you're not. And people will go to people who they like to work with more than people who are the best people in the room. And this is what's definitely worked for me. It's just like being approachable, being honest and transparent about like what your skill set is. People are more willing to work with you. Adam, he's a listener of the podcast. He's on a freelance chat. And I know he's got to listen to this, but he's a perfect example. And we haven't actually even met in person. We've just like been on one FaceTime and I've told about like what my skill set is. But I helped him out on his documentary, which is called Beat the Sea. So quick shout out to that.
Let's ask how that went, actually.
Yeah, I did the trailer for him. He was really happy with it. And now we have like a good working relationship as well. And again, he knows I'm not the best editor, but I'm, very transparent, honest with him. I'll get the work done quickly and to the best of my ability. And that's what he needs. So he's hopefully will get budget to work on like a bigger full length version of it. And he wants me to be a part of that. And that's genuinely just like how it goes. He's not, it wasn't like I must find the best editor I know for this project. It's like, who can get it done, who can do it good, and who I actually enjoy working with, and who can be like reliable. And hopefully, I hope Adam agrees that I tick those boxes for him. But I think honestly, you don't have to worry too much, right, for these networking things. Like, and I definitely did, going into the room being like, oh, I'm not like the best editor in the world. Like, what if they asked to like, see my work? Like, is it good enough? But if I say like, look, this is what my skill set is, and people are like, oh, what do you edit? And I was like, well, at the moment, it's a wide range of things, and hopefully at some point my focus will be solely on film. Is basically what I said. But I said, but right now I'm kind of looking to kind of practice and hone my skills and edit different types of styles, because that will make me better if I'm getting challenged with something I haven't done before. And people actually really liked it, as opposed to like I thought they'll kind of try and trip me up, and I was like, oh, I don't really know. But I think I was just very honest and transparent about where I currently am, where I'm looking to go, and people kind of value that as an answer.
I do want to add on, I do want to ask you a bit more about that, because I think it was a Ben Francis interview or something where he basically said, I think it was an interview where someone was asking about if someone's asking for a pay rise. But at the end of the day, it's kind of similar topic in terms of asking for something from someone you consider more of an expert in the field, right?
Yeah.
Or someone you consider higher ranking than you. One thing he said was he doesn't have, I think it was on these times, I'm paraphrasing, so if I could find it and anyone comes at me like, oh, you're chatting shit, please come up with the correct version of what he said, because I'd actually love to remember it properly. But it was along the lines of, he's not a fan of people who basically go, this is what I'm good at, this is what I've done, blah, blah, now give me this. He's a fan of people that will basically say, this is why I deserve a pay rise, but I'm also clear that these are the areas I need to improve on, and this is what I need to do to achieve those. But essentially, it's like, currently I think I'm doing enough to get the pay rise, and I think I can also develop in these areas, but the things I'm good at is still enough. So someone who's aware of what they're bad at, someone who's okay enough to be vulnerable in the ask. And what I wanted to kind of lean on that was, when you're talking to someone about, oh, this is what I'm really good at, this is the kind of videos I'm editing, and being scared of them not liking your only evidence, essentially, to support your claims.
Yeah.
Do you ever consider the pivot? And it's something I do when, what earlier I said about you spot the grimace on people's face, the look of slight discomfort. If when you're talking to them, you say something that's wrong, or it triggers them naturally in the wrong way. Sometimes people don't even notice they do it, but they'll pull like a frown. It'll be very quick. When I spot that, and I really do value that person's opinion, I've already done my research, I really want them to like me, essentially. I want to be able to collaborate with them. I pivot. And it becomes, because if I'm already aware that you're an expert in this field, and I'm talking to you as someone who is positioned in that field and sees himself as good enough to be in the conversation with you, and you grimace, I pivot into a learner. And it becomes like, I would love to learn more and improve on this area.
Yeah.
And that quickly puts that mentor-mentee position into place. Because it makes it clear that I'm aware that you're uncomfortable with what I'm saying, and I'm assuming that you're uncomfortable with it because you think I'm chatting shit or I'm wrong. But I'm saying it with a level of confidence that comes across as I'm selling it and you should believe me. So I'm going to let you know that I still have some doubts about my skills. And honestly, I would love to learn more from you, because I value what you have to say enough to develop myself in a path that you would suggest.
Yeah.
And it puts someone in that kind of authority position that people tend to love.
I think that's a really, really smart idea to do. And I think just to kind of jump on that as well, is that if you are more vulnerable about yourself, people are more willing to talk to you as well, because obviously it's a room full of egos, everyone trying to big up themselves. But if you're actually like, oh, well, I do this, I need to learn more about this, and you're then more relatable, because everyone has their own insecurities, and if you're able to share that with you, and if that person's nice and not a dickhead, they won't capitalize on it, they'll actually be more willing to work with you. And I think putting yourself in a I think, just to kind of complement what you were saying, is I always think egoless learning is the way forward, and you've basically got to always have a student mentality. There's always people who are going to know more than you, and you'll never catch me saying oh, I know everything on this, or I will never act like I'm an expert. If I do act like an expert, it's because I know 100% I am, and if I'm wrong, then that's great, and I would love to learn, and then that's an opportunity for me to learn more. But for the most part, I always approach people like I'm learning from them, and it naturally makes you more inquisitive and curious, and it makes you ask better questions, more so than the people who are just trying to get value out of that person. Do you see what I'm saying? So you're going to be like, oh, well, how will this work? And instead of this, as opposed to being like, oh my God, what do you do? I'm like, oh, that's crazy. And just having generic, NPC sim responses. You're actually, if you're genuinely interested in trying to learn from someone, You're going to approach it with that natural curiosity that will get people to engage.
Yeah.
And people, and I will always say to them, like, you know, if there's someone who I can see myself working with, be like, look, I'm currently in this position. I know you're currently here. If there's any room for us to potentially collaborate on any projects, I'll be happy to get involved in anywhere I can, because I really respect what you're doing. As opposed, and not even mentioning like money and pay and things like that. One of the things which just popped in my head just now that I was very cautious of is that people don't want to be with people that complain or are negative. So when people asked about like, what do I do? My natural response for my job was going to be like negative. And I was that was the only thing I was conscious of to like tweak my response to. So I actually didn't, I hope I didn't for the most part, I stayed positive about the things that I was doing, because people don't know like what my day-to-day is like, and they don't know why I particularly aren't a fan of it. So, but if I'm just negative, I'm naturally going to like push people away. So I said like, oh, I'm currently doing this. However, I'm more interested in a creative path. So that's why I started video editing and a podcast with my co-host Sam. Then, you know, show the Insta, things that we're talking about. And people also really love the idea of our podcast, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I
spoke to a lot of people about it. I spoke to a lot of people about it.
How do you sell it? And how do you sell the podcast to people quickly?
So I'll say to them, I'll start. I said I have a podcast and I'm a co-host with Sam. It's like, oh, what do you talk about? I'll say there's a lot of podcasts with business owners who only talk about how they made it when they're 100 millionaires, whereas Sam and I are sharing our experiences from day one. As opposed to having a hindsight bias, we're going to be very open and vulnerable about the week to weeks of business ownership and entrepreneurship.
Let's go, twin. Let's go. That's literally wow, how I said it. And they go,
wow, that's really good. That's so open and vulnerable. Yeah. And then people are actually willing. Then you sandwich in the editing. Then you sandwich in the business.
Edit everything.
And that's when people ask, oh, what do you? Then people ask, like, oh, what are your businesses? So the podcast actually is a good sort of like starter, and then the main is
because we don't sell ourselves as podcasters.
No,
and it's weird. It's like breaking the fourth wall. It's like breaking the fourth wall.
No,
it's like once we recognize ourselves as podcasters, and I'll say it this way. I feel like if I start to recognize myself as a podcaster, then the podcast becomes one of the three things I focus on, right? The podcast is a window into what we do and how our journey towards our success. It's not the journey itself. Of course, it will play a part in the journey towards success because it will get more eyes on us. And that's a bias I think we have to be honest about. And that's a bias that our viewers and listeners need to recognize. But it doesn't take away from the fact that we don't actively sell ourselves as podcasters. We will talk about the podcast if there's an opportunity to do so, and it's valuable in that conversation. But my prime focus, like Lewis would say, he edits all the content, because you edit all the content. I would say that my part in it is kind of sharing my experience. Lewis is the literary guy. He does his research, he reads. I speak from a lot of crappy mistakes I've made. And I'm able to kind of, I'm happy.
You did the website. You could have the website.
I do actually say that, to be fair. I do say I built the website.
www.thepodcastevolve.com.
Hey, man. Thank you, Lewis. Thank you. So, yeah. I think that's something that's important to state. A question I was going to ask you was the type of networker you are. Are you a solo networker, or do you network with a crew?
So I'm very, very glad you asked me this, because I was going to go with my flatmate and my best mates, and love to Ricky. I'm very glad he didn't go, because if he did, I wouldn't have spoke to that many people. And you know, we want to evolve, pun intended, and it was good for me to put myself in an uncomfortable scenario to grow. And it's now something which I'm I would think I'm a lot more comfortable doing from now on. So I would say solo networker from now on, because I think it's best for me. And I think if the comfort zone being, my flatmate, my friends are there, it's very easy for you to kind of slip back in and just get chatting you two and then maybe bring in one person in. Whereas if it's just me, I'm going to speak to as many people in the room as I can. And one of the things which I did is like, like in like early 2000s when pickup artists were a thing. And it's like, there's one thing which I stuck, which definitely works, is if you're comfortable chatting to people, it's called the 3-second rule. So like when you enter the room, like speak to someone within 3 seconds just to like get rid of the cobwebs.
But that wasn't the 30-second rule I was thinking of. That was not the 3-second rule I was thinking of. Carry on though. I'll see mine next, but carry on.
It's like, if you're nervous about speaking to people in the room, like just speak to like the first person you see, basically. And that's definitely what I did. Because you hype it up to be like such a big problem. And it's like, if you're nervous about like chatting to girls or guys or whatever, and then you build it up in your head and then you just end up never doing it.
Yeah.
So to get rid of the cobwebs of like chatting to strangers, I just chatted to the first people that I saw, just introduce myself and everything like that. It's probably the most rusty introduction, but you then get better. And then by the end, I'm like, oh, hi, I'm Lewis. I started a video company. I also have a podcast with my friend Sam, and I work at NBC Universal. Yeah. And it then rolls off the tongue, as opposed to being like sitting there in a drink like that. So what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, well, the 3-second rule I had was like something I saw on some really, oh my God help me, because please, people, don't do this. I think I saw it on some YouTube video once about picking up girls or something weird like that. It was in a weird YouTube. You've got all these like tape fans type people, but this was like years ago when you got like boys with like their sunglasses and caps flipped backwards, thinking like they could get all the girls, and they're YouTubers. So like them for like their gaming videos, and next thing you know, they're doing like a vlog where they like with their mates. And I was just watching this, and this guy basically said this thing. Or did I say anyway? Where have I learned it from? This guy was basically, or this girl was saying this thing where it's just like, if someone looks at you for 3 seconds without breaking eye contact and then looks away right after, it means they're into you. That's like the 3-second rule I'm aware of. So I tried, I'm not going to lie, Lewis, I've tried it out a few times. This is obviously back in my single days. Haters, calm down. I did try it out and it works, but it doesn't just work for like pulling in terms of if you make eye contact with someone for 3 seconds, and it's also if they stare longer than 3 seconds, it's like there's something wrong with them.
That's a long time to make eye contact.
But like if it's like 3 seconds and it's like 1, 2, 3, look away, and they look away as well, it's like, yeah, that's a game plan to be played here. Interestingly, I think it's just a good way for people who, like me, who weren't always the best at judging social cues, but have got a lot better at it over time.
Yeah, fair.
It's a way to see if someone's trying to get your attention.
Okay.
If someone's, it's like, when you look at the waiter and the waiter like looks at you and they're like, okay, I'll come over. It's that kind of thing of like, I'll come, that kind of thing.
Fair.
Go on.
So just to jump on that, they actually use that in retail as well. Like if a customer's like looking at you, you would know that because you worked in
Jod, and I hated it.
Well, what about you? Are you a solo networker?
I'm a solo networker. I don't mind going there with people.
Yeah.
But I'm a very supportive friend, right? So if I'm there with a friend, I kind of feel like if I see them struggling, I have to wingman you. I have to save you. And in doing that, I'm not selling myself, because if it's someone important that I want to talk to and you just pop up, I'm not trying to look like a dick who's actively ignoring you. So I'm going to include in the conversation. But in doing that, I'm slowly cannibalizing my opportunity or the game plan I have, because the game plans I have for networking tend not to include other people, because I'm usually in rooms like this by myself. I'm not going to lie. I'm usually in these positions on my own. So I've got comfortable doing it on my own. If I'm with someone else, my focus isn't for me. My focus is to help them get somewhere. So if a friend takes me on an event, I'm there on their behalf. I'm there to champion you because you invited me. And I'll go do my own thing later. I'll like set up a conversation and then like disappear in the background and go have my own conversation later on. So I'm more a solo networker. I don't mind being approached by a group of people. In terms of like, I don't mind being approached by like group networkers or people who like to do it in like duos or whatever. I'm not a big fan if it's like 8 or more people, because I'm there like, do I give autographs after this? Like how many? And I have to like keep switching my attention because I like to get to know individuals. So if it's like a group of 3 or 4, there's enough time in like a 10-minute conversation to get a grasp of what everyone else wants to say. But I am definitely a solo networker. I have a game plan in my head. I've got scenarios planned in my head of how things would go based on how people have reacted to my behavior. And I tend not to want to plan for someone else in that scenario, because that's like a whole different combination of universes I've got to think about in terms of what I say and then what if you say this. No, I'm clear on what I can say and what's likely to be said back to me. I'm not clear on what that person says. So it's hard for me to like network in a partnership. I'd say if we were putting a room together, we'd be good enough to vibe off each other.
We'd be sick, I'm not gonna lie.
Exactly. We'd be good enough to vibe off each other. But that's taken like, it's because I'll say the best situation is uni. Like when we're talking to people, like we've been like in the club somewhere talking to like a group of girls something, or like we've been able to just like vibe and then enjoy the night and disappear. Like that has been us before, right? So I'm also very aware of, I'd say, your mannerisms and your communication. I can tell when like you feel uncomfortable, if you feel like they're taking the piss out of me. I can tell when it is, because I'm just like defensive mode now. We've shut up. Now I won't be like, don't hurt Lewis's friend, but let him know if you take piss out of Lewis in front of me, I'm attacking you and your insecurities. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna let you know I'm doing it because of Lewis. I'm gonna let you know that I think highly of Lewis over you and put you back in your place. And then I know that you then feel more confident in being like, everyone got smackings today in this conversation. Back to the talk. So that
big bro stepped in.
Big bro steps in. Shut up. Now let's network. So I'm definitely in general a solo networker. One, I do have experience. Have you ever heard of ProdCon or ProdCon?
No, that sounds like some tech shit. That's some sneaky Comic-Con looking.
Wow. I was so happy and then he said Nikki.
I'm sorry.
He said Nikki. Don't make me come for your insecurities. God. And well, the last one I went to was with actually my manager, and she was pretty awesome. And it was kind of a situation where I wasn't in the mood to network, because in those situations, people are networking because they want new jobs, right? And I'm with my manager, so I'm not out here trying to do a LinkedIn open to work post in front of her, right? I'm not trying to I'm trying to show that I'm able to learn. I'm able to like communicate with others. So I paired up with her, and it was just me and her kind of vibing. And we already had like our company name on our chest. So like people are coming to us because it's a big company. So people are coming to us and wanting to talk to us and want to see how they can collaborate with Experian, blah, blah. I don't mind people knowing that. But yeah. So we're talking, and this one girl came up to us, and she was, I'm not going to lie, she was waved. Like she was enjoying herself. And she came up to us, and then she was like, hey, how you doing? But she was holding like a bottle of Heineken while she was, and I was just there like, okay, I'm definitely going to see this conversation through, because there's only jokes that can come off the back of this. Only jokes and entertainment can come off entertaining it. So we're talking, and you know what? She left us with a great impression of her, because I will be honest in saying, I can't remember exactly what her business is, but it's to do with basically getting young people in tech to work in different countries for other tech companies. I can't remember the name of the company, but I remember her face. It was that long ago, to be fair. And she basically was just like, yeah, she's a young person from, I think she was like a white Zimbabwean. So she's kind of talking about how like it's difficult for people like her to be like, to develop stuff in Africa, because she's kind of seen as an outsider and all these things. But you know what? She comes from a family with like lots of money, and she wants to do more for her country. So she basically was like, she hires people from that country, young people, and she basically gets some freelance tech positions elsewhere. So they earn like London wage, but live in Africa. So they're balling. That's basically what she sets them up for. And I was just like, fair play. And she was basically like, I'm basically here to just find companies that want to work with us, because we are ourselves. We're open, we're honest, and we don't hide who we are. We embrace it. And she was like, oh, I'm looking for people from other nations who can work with me. And obviously me being black, there's an opportunity. There's a recruitment opportunity here. But me also not being open to work, I'm just here for keys and learning more about different companies. But I'll tell you why she left a good impression. Because she wasn't there just to make connections with businesses. She was there to recruit. And she sold herself as an open and transparent boss who could have fun. And that's why she was herself. So I started with, she came up to us looking all waved and drunk. She left me thinking, I can be myself.
That's a cool boss.
Her. Exactly. I could be myself. Don't be drunk in every meeting. Don't embarrass me in front of our clients. But like, I could be myself around you, and I like that.
I want to ask you this actually, because you mentioned you're not there to, open to work, things like that.
Yeah.
And I've been in scenarios where I've been with my current company, not the one I work with now, and say if there's like a example, there might be like a movie industry like networking event, and there might be people who I want to collab with or even work with or move job to. How would you navigate the situation of like potentially wanting to ask about job opportunities at a either competing company or could it even be a current client? Like, how would you navigate trying to network for potential opportunities when you're surrounded by your current people?
I've been in this situation before and I won. Okay, so in that situation, you sell yourself without asking for a handout. As simple as that, right? You have the conversation about your job. And I'm not saying brag and say I'm the best person at this, blah, blah. Because people here sell yourself and you think chat shit about myself until some. No, you just come across as a greasy con man. Just start the conversation about what you do, what you're good at, and build up an interest on that topic with that other person. They will likely let you know if they're looking to recruit or not. And sometimes they'll say it within earshot of your colleagues. Don't dive into that aspect of the conversation so eagerly. Don't jump on and be like, oh yeah, I'm looking for a job, because you're also trying to save face in your company, right? You don't, at this point, you're like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but you also want that pay rise in the next quarter. So you don't want to make it look like you're leaving soon.
You got to tease them, got to make them want you a bit.
Exactly. So you've got to build a rapport on that topic. And if you want to ensure a follow-up after the fact, get their contact details or get them to add you on LinkedIn and make it be like, oh, like it was a really good chatting to you. Like we should definitely talk more about this. And then in that private space or in that follow-up conversation you have, it's when you kind of go, I really enjoyed that conversation. I'd like to learn more from you. Because if they're the person recruiting you, or if they're the higher up person you're looking to get recruited by, they're already in that mentor position, right?
Yeah.
So you then in that private space, let them know you really want to develop under their guidance, you want to work with them, and you'd love, not necessarily always, you'd love to know if there's any opportunities, but you're keen to hear from them. And quite often people let you know like, hey, I want to recruit you, but sometimes they're in a position where they can't, there might be hiring freezes in their company, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But it's making it clear that you're not there just for the money. So if they say, hey, not right now, it should be like, no, that's cool. I'd still love to learn more from you. So like, let's keep the conversation going. And then you'd be in a position where you'd have to be the one to strike up the next conversation, because they've already made it clear to you that they want to hire you. There's just a hiring freeze. There'll be a dead silence if you don't say anything. It's your job to follow it up with, not too soon, like treat like a date, like treat them mean, treat them, make it a bit keen, like save it a few days, ping them like, oh, hey, I was reading this article, reminding me of the conversation we had, blah, blah, like follow up eventually.
You got that work risk.
Exactly. It keeps you at top of mind. And it means that when there is an opening, and always let them know, like, not all the time because it gets a bit beggy, but every now and then when you're like, of course, please let me know. Yeah, like, yeah. Just it's like, please let me know. And start making it like, not just about them, make it about the company that you want to work with. If they own the company, great. But make it about how like, hey, I saw that they're doing this. That was pretty cool what they did there. If you're meant to be, if the job you want is to improve that area of things, give some suggestions about, have you guys considered doing it this way? Have you considered doing that way? Because sometimes, and it's happened to me more often than not, if there isn't a job opportunity, one will get created for you. Because what a company wants more than an employee to complete a task is someone dedicated to solve the company problems in general, right? So if you could prove that you're dedicated to be there and solve that company's problems, and he gets to be the Donny, or they get to be the Donny to bring you in and help do that, it makes them look great. So if you don't come in, sometimes you can get roles created for you where we just want to nurture this young person and put them in a place where they can help this company do better.
It's very interesting you said that, because that's like one of the laws in like the 48 laws of power. It's
really?
Like you don't overpower the master, basically is what it says. It's like basically what you said. It's like, don't try and look better than your boss. How you get forward is by making your boss look good.
Yep.
And that's basically what that reminded me of. But yeah, I feel like you've accidentally like given game. You were like, bro, you put on like a husky voice. You're like, yeah, just say, hey, you thought about doing it that way.
I have.
Yeah, I saw this article.
My wrist has been exposed.
Made me think about you. I was like, Sam,
hey, my wrist has been exposed.
Who are you hitting on? You're married,
I'm not gonna lie. What? The market's tough out here. You know, the market wants to buy me. I'm selling and they're buying.
They don't make a position for me. You know what I mean? You're mad, that is.
It's actually crazy. But it's a humble flex, though. It's a humble flex because the last 3 jobs I'd say I've had, the last 3 jobs I've had have been opportunities that have essentially been created or adapted to bring me in. And absolutely, before we sign off on this, I would like to think I've validated it by giving it my best effort, because for someone to create an opportunity for you, they put themselves and their names on the line on your behalf.
Yeah, true.
And to all the people that have created opportunities for me, I would probably say this more times than they like to hear it, but thank you. And to anyone that this gets done for, Lewis, if you kill another fly, don't get a fly catcher.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so if someone gives you that opportunity, give them the due respect, say thank you, and say thank you not through your words, but through your actions. And there will likely come a time where you have to leave and you have to move on to another opportunity. And I think it's having that respect in mind of nearing that time where you've made that decision, pull that person aside, make them aware that they've helped you a lot in this development, and then make them aware of the decision you're going to take to move on to that opportunity. Don't just drop it on them that you're handing a notice in.
Absolutely, right? Man.
I think and in some cases, those same people will probably help you get that new opportunity because they just care about your development.
Yeah, and it's like you just got to lead with like gratitude, I think, because it's infectious. And you actually just made me think, because I mentioned how in the first episode I talked about one of the first few, I talked about placement year, and Microsoft came to Trent, and there were the current interns, and I basically got linked in with one of the interns, and basically at every stage of the interview, I asked them for advice and just kept on checking in with them. And I mean, I got the job, and it definitely helped, like, just having that in terms of like what are the things that they're looking for. And when I got the role, I was like, thank you, things like that, like lead with gratitude. Same thing with Spotify. I was in talks with HR for like ages, like about the positions and what they're looking for. And although it wasn't like a direct referral, my team found it interesting that I actually just applied directly on the website, because everybody in the team had been referred. Like every single person had basically, because obviously you get a referral bonus, you got like $2,000. So everybody had been referred, and they found it interesting that I was just a random Donny on the website, which was like a cool flex. But at the same time, it's like I probably should have had the initiative to like DM someone. But also in that interview stage, they deliberately made me wait 15 minutes at the reception, and the receptionist was chatting to me.
That happens to me uni days.
Yeah,
the receptionist test.
They wanted to see how I speak to receptionists.
Yeah, and shout out Katie, by the way. Shout out Katie. You're one. Yeah. You're a good one.
And just to quickly touch upon like this interview process. Basically, I was like in London for 5 days a week for 2 weeks, like doing 2 interviews a day. And basically my final interview was like with like the head of like sales essentially. And it was 2 weeks out, and I was like out of habit. And I basically forgot how to interview because I was so nervous. And I completely fucked this interview. Like, she was like, what skills do you bring to the team? And I was like, pass. Like, I said nothing. Like, I completely bottled it. And woman's name was Emily, and I thank Emily for giving me a chance. She basically, like a few days later, invited me to like a team lunch, and I was like, I don't understand what this means. So went to London, had lunch with the team, and then basically got the job when I came home. And we had like an offsite like a few months later, and I was like, by the way, I want to say thank you because I know I fucked that last interview. And she was like, yeah, I could tell you were extremely nervous, and we just wanted to see like how you were like in person, because I could tell like your nerves had just like completely thrown you off. And they just basically, that lunch was just to see how I was in like a normal environment. I obviously knew it was an interview, but yeah, it was just something, again, it's just like, just being yourself can pay off. Obviously, I was very fortunate in that scenario because I'd done well in all the previous interviews, but that last one, I completely... And usually that would have been the end of the day because there were people who wanted this job. But, you know, being yourself can have its benefits and pay off quite well.
Before we sign off, funny story about my uni days interview, my first interview uni days. So, why I was saying shout out Katie is she was my receptionist test. So she was sat there at the desk when I came in, and I came to my interview in jumper, chinos, smart shoes on my skateboard. That's how I rolled up on the interview. I turned up on my skateboard, and it's somewhere in this house, and I can't be able to get it right now. But on my skateboard is basically a depiction of the Last Supper with all the Looney Tunes and some anime characters. And in the middle is Jesus smoking a blunt. And that's the skateboard I turn up to you days on. And why is, when I applied for the job there, I did want the job, of course, and I did move on to other teams. But at that time, I was interested in the job. But part of me was also, let me not be a beg. Let me apply for this opportunity as my true self, someone who enjoys creativity for the sake of creativity, not for the sake of how it gets translated to other people, but for the job of it. Someone who wants to be in a place where he can be himself without having to filter it. But also someone who can present themselves as, regardless of the negative light around me, I can still be approachable, right? So I was trying to, admittedly, I also wanted to get there on time, which is why I took the skateboard. But I was also accepting of the fact that this will be a challenge that I can overcome, and overcoming it would only make me look good. So I sat there, and she was just like, you came with your skateboard? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, I'm going to call you skateboard P. And I was just like, what did she just say? How are you just giving me a nickname off the bat? And we were just like laughing and talking about it. So I was like, yeah, I don't mind going around with a skateboard. We were just having a nice chill wag, talked about her day, talked about her life. And do you know what the mad thing was? After I got the job offer that day, but because it was such like, I was a bit more not weak-minded, but it was a big strain on me. Like, it was a lot of social energy I gave out to counterbalance a lot of things. I was done. I was tired. I ate loads of carbs, went into a coma, woke up, and I'd got 2 missed calls. And I kept calling them back, and I'd leave a voicemail like, hey, please let me know. And then they would call me, but then I would miss it because I leave my phone somewhere, blah, blah. Long story short, it's because we were both trying to find out what had happened in the job, and they were like, oh, you've got the job. But I found out on the day, and I was gassed. And I remember being so gassed. And when I went back to the team, they were basically like, not only did they like that I was vulnerable, and that, because it was a coding challenge as part of the application. So not only did they like that I was vulnerable, and the fact that there were areas that they questioned, but I was able to say, I was able to say, I did this, I got this information off the internet, but I'm willing to learn more about it because it was challenging, and I used it thinking it'll work. If it doesn't work, I'm hoping this job experience will teach me more about it. They liked the fact that I wanted to learn more through the job. But one of the other things they pointed out was the guy who did my interview run down to Katie to ask what she thought of me. And then she said that she loved Sam. Like, Sam was hilarious. Like, he came on a skateboard. Like, she was like, that was the best entrance in terms of he came on a skateboard. That doesn't mean that everyone skateboards to your next job interview. Don't turn up at bloody, like, Bank of England in your suit or like Cougs or whatever it is on the skateboard. No. But it's more that I left a good impression. And they were honest in saying, like, the interview and everything was great, but the biggest selling point was the fact that Katie got along with you, because it means you will get along with everyone here. If you could get along with the receptionist who meets everyone, and gets bored of human beings so much that she just has, her job is to pretend in most days that she's coping with you.
Yeah.
And if you can get along with her, you're winning. And I think that circles us back to treating everyone equally.
Absolutely, man. And being yourself is, again, I think, honestly, if you're yourself, and fortunately for you, Sam, you're a very likable person, and yourself is actually something that people really, pretty love to be around. That's why we do a podcast. You reminded me a lot of, I'm just thinking back to interviews, and I told you about the placement, how my final Microsoft interview I must have done.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, I turned up an hour late.
Yeah,
because of the trains, and so I missed like the first. So for the, I don't know if I mentioned this in the pod. Did I already?
You've not mentioned it in the pod.
Have I not? Okay.
Talked about.
So it was placement year, basically assessment center interview. I turned up an hour late. I missed like the first stage interview with basically 10 candidates meet all the interviewers for the day, which are like managers, and they're hiring like 5 roles in the day. And one of them was, the Xbox one, which I wanted. Anyway, I walk in the room, like, waiting for everyone to come back from, like, the interview stage. And basically, none of these people look at me like, why did he just turn around and go home? And at that point, I basically had nothing to lose apart from being myself. Because I know at that point, I'm at the bottom of the list. So I thought, you know what, I might as well have fun with it. The next stage was, like, you bring in an item to, like, represent... like what you can bring to the company. And I basically bought like a self-help book with me, and basically how I spun it around was like, you know, I could be positive in situations that are negative. For example, being late to a Microsoft interview, and like everybody laughed. And I just like broke the ice immediately, and like I turned that what could have been used against me. It's like you own the power, own it, and you use it, and you crush your enemies. And basically I had like 3 interviews with like other people in departments, like in the Bing department, and I was like, well, fucking job. And then I immediately went into the one with who would be my manager, Nick. And he was like, at this point, I was just having fun with it. And he was like, oh, so why do you want to work at Xbox Team? And I was like, oh, you know, I love games, you know, and just like shooting up people. That's literally what I said. And I literally, like, he laughed, thank God. But
imagine he didn't. He just picks up the
phone. I just love playing games with like shooting up people to like de-stress. I said something along those lines. And we just got chatting about games and things like that. And talk about like what his childhood games were like, and I mentioned like, you know, Nintendo 64, like Zelda, like, you know, all this sort of stuff. And he said I got the job just because he's like, well, you're the only person who I've interviewed today that actually has a genuine interest in gaming, and you are super likable, and I'm going to be spending more time with you than I am my wife, so we have to get on well. If you think about it, that
doesn't hear this. She's just looking at him.
Think about it. Is 2016, 2017, 5 days a week. I'm going to be seeing him more than he's going to be seeing his family. So he's like, I have to enjoy who I'm spending time with.
Fair point.
But yeah, I think this has been a good masterclass in, you know, how to be your authentic self when you're networking, as opposed to trying to be seen as you think people ought to be seen. Don't blow smoke up people's assholes. Be yourself. Have respect for yourself.
Have respect for others.
Absolutely. Treat everyone equally. You know what? You shake hands with your boss. Shake hands with the janitor. Do you know what I mean?
You ask how they're both doing. You ask how their families are doing. Because it turns out everyone has to shower in the morning and eat breakfast. No one's God.
Facts. You know what? I love that. Like, there's like a video of like it's like Obama versus Trump when they're like boarding Air Force One, and he like salutes people, and like Trump like runs onto the plane and just like doesn't give a shit and stuff like that. I know you probably did it once, but you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to go into politics, but you know, in terms of like leaders and people who you respect,
one is more charismatic than the other.
Yeah, and you know, they treat people of all levels respectfully. It's like you can tell those people who like don't talk to you because you're not CEO or whatever. And it's like, I know there are people in my current job who are like VPs and stuff, and like we've seen each other hundreds of times. We've made eye contact, and they've never made the light of day to like get to ask me who I am. and they feel like, oh, I should be approached because I'm VP and whatever. But there are some other people in the company who genuinely don't recognize you. They'll go and be like, oh, hi, I don't think we've met before. Whereas I've sat next to like high up people and they just don't bother because they just don't care. And I think that's really unfortunate that you have those individuals who are leaders in the company. But
before we sign off, I think it's important to recognize that if you're in a company long enough, your survival instincts will kick in. And sometimes those people came into that company with high hopes and dreams, like yourself, going into that company. And sometimes it just gets knocked down so much, you're just there for the paycheck. And it becomes, who's asked you actually need to waste time kissing to get where you need to? If you're in that position where you're looking at a CEO or an exec or someone higher up doing that, don't let that, please do not let that shape who you are as a person. Because what the world needs more of, what companies need more of, is people who give a damn. Because at some point, someone needs to look up to you and think you give a damn, so then they can be encouraged to keep giving a damn. And you can get rid of like the disease in companies, that is people that are just there, sitting at a desk, waiting for a pay rise because they've been there 2 years.
Yep.
It's like, I deserve this because I've been here long enough. No, you don't. You should deserve it because you worked hard enough for it. You should deserve it because you're good at your job, not because you've been there for 25 years, doing the exact same thing perfectly well, knowing full well that it gives no value to the company, knowing full well that you're putting someone down because you think that this and that person did it to you, so it's now someone else's turn to grow their character through you treating them like crap. No, you're a dick. I think more people need to see others enjoy their job, see others be able to understand what others are going through and treat them like human beings. I think we need more of that in industries. And it's complete extra time we're in right now. It's completely side conversation. But I think what I'm hoping is we get a lot of CEOs, a lot of entrepreneurs coming off the back of listening to episodes, people who are more developed, more involved from listening to episodes. And what I'm hoping is they too lead by example, because what you see in companies right now is either the company's really good with its staff members and crap to its customers, or really good to its customers, and it does that by burning out its staff members. It's very rare to have a company that does both, and it's not difficult to have a company that does both. It just takes time. And the time needed is for people to understand the value of their work and why it benefits customers. And at the same time, people who are higher ranking to understand the value of caring about their staff. Those two things need to happen for people to enjoy your products and services, whilst your staff and your team enjoy creating that experience for their users. And I think the only way you achieve that is by getting rid of this mindset of treating other people like crap because they deserve it. It'll build up their character. It just makes people more resentful. And the evidence to that is the fact that you're doing it to someone else because you think that should be done. Simple as that.
Creature.
Look, is it all right? Exactly. Is it all right if we sign off about them?
Yeah, I know you said before we sign off 5 times.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
know,
but it's been like, a good topic though, bro.
It's
good, right?
I enjoy our chats, man. Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for listening.
Facts.
This is a long one. If you got all this way to the end, drop us a follow on Spotify, subscribe to the YouTube, and follow us on Instagram, The Podcast Evolve, TikTok, The Podcast Evolve, www.thepodcastevolve.com, thepodcastevolve@gmail.com as well.
Yep.
And yeah, let us know how you get on. If you go into a networking event, you do the 3-second rule, hop in, jump in and speak to people. Outreach on email. Let us know how you're getting on. Sam, anything else to add?
Comments section. No, leave us a comment. Sometimes I go in the comments and I'm just like, oh, nice to hear from you. I like to hear from more people in that section. Interact with our stuff more. Honestly, it helps us get more reach as well.
Yeah, and also there's only one comment on YouTube, and that's actually Sam.
No, actually, Mumsy has been commenting somewhere, I swear I've seen my mum's name pop up in some
on YouTube
somewhere. Yeah. I'm pretty sure one of the shorts she commented and I was just there like, oh,
I swear.
Love you, but you're screwing the algorithm. Relax. Love you, but like relax.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. You just reminded me of something. Sorry. I know we're doing a sign off. So I went and saw Elliot the other day, and he mentioned he only listened to like the first 2, but Elliot's mum, Lucy, listens every single week, and that warms my heart so much. So hi, Lucy. Bye. All right, and bye, Lucy. And bye to the rest of you. See you guys next week. Peace.